Hi, welcome to the tutorial for EasyPdfTakeoff. This tutorial is for version 2. In this version we have a couple new features. One notable one is going to be this toolbox, and we also have PDF utilities. I'm going to go over these features later on. So when you first open up a program, you're going to have to create a new project. So you're going to go up here and you're going to click Create Project. And the only field you need to fill in would be the project name to give it a unique name. Down here you have a button for grayscale mode. So when it imports the project, it's going to turn the pages grayscale, which will make it easier to see. So you usually click this on. And the next thing you're going to do is select a file to work on. Now, my customer sent me a project to work to do pricing on, so I'm going to select this one and click OK. For large files, it can take a little bit of time to load, so be patient. So now I've loaded the job. So there's a couple of things we can do. So over here I have some reference pictures of what the job is going to look like. Also some images. So the first thing I want to do maybe is add these ones here as a reference so I can see what I'm working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and click Add Bookmark. And you'll see in a minute what this does. So the other things you can do is the pages that you're not going to use, you can delete them. Just click here on Remove Page. This will speed up the program on larger projects. So if you click on the pages over here, you have a preview. So something that you can do, for example, is rename the pages. So this is basement, first level, second level, and this is the inside. So after we rename the pages, we can select the ones that we want to work on. So just simply click on them so it's check marked. And we're going to go up here and we're going to click Load Pages. So when you get to the workspaces, you have a couple tabs here in the front that show the pages that you selected. You can move them around if you want. If you right click on the buttons, you can also rename them or to close them off. So to navigate the page, if you hold your middle mouse button, you can page the pen around, and you can also zoom in and out by using the middle mouse finger. Optionally, you can click the control button and the left mouse button to move the screen, and the shift to zoom in and out. So when you first load the page, we're going to have to set a scale so the program knows how big the dimensions are. So on the left side we have this button here. We're going to click this and we're going to select a dimension on the page. And you want to find a nice big dimension with hopefully a round number. The bigger they are, the more accurate it will be. And we'll click Scale Mode. And we're going to run this line here on the dimension. And we're going to click OK. There's also a button here to apply the scale to all pages. So I'm going to do that. When you're doing takeoffs, it's good to check that the pages have been set accurately. So over here we have a little tape measure tool. So if I click here and I go on the dimension, I can verify that it's correct. So 32, 32, this is pretty accurate. So previously I set a couple of bookmarks for a page, and the bookmarks will show up here on the side. So when I click on it, it brings up another window that I can use for reference, and you can pan these around. And I have a second monitor, so I can actually move this in and snap it into position, and that allows me to use it as a reference. Now the other option is to click on this button here, and this will open up all the windows you have at the same time, so you can use it as a reference. Actually, I'm going to delete this one here. So there we go. And you can see all the pages and you can move around and zoom in. I'm going to close this off. Okay, so what exactly is a takeoff? So I'll give you an illustration. So over here, I have a bunch of tools. So I'm going to select the line tool, and I'll call this, let's say, so this particular tool is a line. It allows me to take linear measurements. So if I start drawing here on the outside of the building, it gets the perimeter. So if you look over here, keep an eye out. As I add lines, the dimension keep adding up. So this allows me to basically go through the drawing and create items where I can basically summarize the different links and the different areas on the drawing, and it'll automatically tally them up for me. So over here, you have a takeoff group. And a takeoff group, you can think of it kind of like a folder. So something that a customer sometimes want me to do is separate the pricing for each building on the job. So this is one way to do it. So to create a new takeoff group, you're going to go up here to this plus sign and click button. And if you want, you can rename them by adding here on the side. So let's say building 1. And I'm going to rename this one here, let's say building 2. And to switch between the different folders, you just click on this button right here. So you can see when it's selected, it's going to highlight it. And what this does is that when you're actually drawing on a particular item, it's going to separate them. So if I go here, for example, creates a line, I can click here, it's going to add a tab here. I have to select it first. So this one here, I have to select it first. And that allows me to divide the different items. So now that you have an idea of how this works, let's take a look at the different takeoff items you can create. So you already saw the line. This allows you to take linear measurements. You can also create a polyline. This is similar to a line, but it will have multiple points, so you can take more obscure shapes. And with these items, you can always just click on it and drag it around. And you can click on the points to resize, and it gives you some dimensions over here. So the next item is going to be the counter. This item allows you to take counts of different items. If you click on the item, you can always just give it different descriptions. So usually, if you have some different numbers, you can give it a number, and you can give it a description. You can change its opacity, and you can also change the color. There's some different properties you can set. Okay, so the next item is going to be the rectangular area. So this allows you to make rectangular zones. There's another one here, which is the area, which is similar to a polyline. And this allows you to take areas of more complex shapes. To terminate the operation, you just click on the right mouse button here. The next tool is going to be the highlighter. So this allows you to basically just highlight some different areas of interest, and you can also add a comment here. The other tool, we're going to have annotation items. So this one here, they're basically just kind of like text boxes that allow you to add notes to your page. Here's a rectangular one. We can do a circular one. And then we can do a little note to call it out. Over here we have a little turn page, allows you to rotate the screen. And up here we have a little selection tool. This allows us to select multiple items. So for example, if you want to delete it. When you're done with it, make sure you deactivate it because it's going to stay on. Okay, so let's delete some of the stuff. Alright, so now that this is done, let's do some takeoffs. So if I open up my reference picture. So for my scope of work, I want to do a takeoff on these railings here on the decks. And that's kind of like what our business specializes in. So I can see here that I have some on their stair, I have some on their deck, and I also have some on the second level here. So on the ground level, it's calling out to have a guardrail right here. So I'm going to go here on the left side and I'm going to select the polyline tool, and I'm going to call this railing. And you can always select the different colors to give it, and you can give it a comment if you want. So this item has been selected right here. We're going to start drawing it.
Holy shit, it's not working.
So all you do is you just go over the perimeter where the item is, and you can see here it is giving me the total. Now to add more items, you just go here on the left side and we can call it, we can give it a different color. We can start drawing it here. And it's giving me the total. Now to switch the items between the items is pretty easy. You just click here and it allows you to draw one item, and we have another item right here. So there's a couple different options that you can do here. So to reorganize the items, you can click on the right here and you can move them up or down. And there's a little checkbox here. If you click on this will hide or show the items. Okay, next. So the next area is going to be this group takeoff. So this allows you to modify the properties of the items based on the group. So for example, if I have this item here, stair, I have a bunch of these green items. All of these ones are going to be considered a group. So for example, I can show and hide it. And if I want, I can change their color. It's going to change them all together. And I can go here and I change the opacity. I can add a comment. Now there's another clicky button here, it's called Send to Back. This is more useful for areas, so I'll give you an example here. Let's say I'm going to create a box, and let's say I want to draw something on top of it. See, it's going to create an issue with it, because it's going to interfere with the dimension. Now what you can do is you can click on this button, Send to Back, and what it's going to do is lock it in behind. So when you actually drawing additional items over top, it's not going to interfere with it. Let's see. Over here we have some different properties that we can modify. So if we select an item, we can, for example, set it a rate, which is your selling price. So let's say we want to sell this item for $50. We can give it a 50. And this will apply to basically all the items, so when it's exporting to a report, it's going to add the cost into the summary. The next one is the cost. This is optional as well. This will tell you how much the item costs. So let's say it's $25 to buy. The next item is going to be the count. So the count here, this will apply to the entire group. So a good example of this, so let's see. If we go into the side view of the house, I'm going to create an item. I'll call this one a handrail. And with our handrails, it's common to have them on both sides of the building. So if I do this, I can basically go here and say count 2. And this will multiply this particular group by 2 so that it applies to both sides. Now the other property is going to be multiple. Multiple kind of works the same way, but it has a little bit more of a different function. So one of the ideas behind this is, for example, let's say I wanted to take a planter and I want to find out how much dirt is in it. So I can use this to apply it to an area. So for example, let's say if a planter is 3 feet tall, I can go here and I can apply a multiple of 3, and 3 times the area is going to give you a volume. So you can use it like this, or the other option is, for example, to apply a certain percentage on top of the item if you want to do a markup. So the next block is a single item property. So unlike this group one that applies to all the objects, this one will apply to a single item. So if I click on this one here, I have these properties here that will work the same. So I can give it a count. Let's see that particular item is 3. It's only going to apply this property with a count. The multiple works the same way. There's also a property called a slope angle. So one of the reasons you might want to use it is, for example, let's say the ground is uneven. So for example, let's say you're working on a ramp or you're working on a slope, but the property from the top is going to be flat. So you can, if you do this one here, you can, for example, apply it to the item. Let's say 35 degrees. And this will increase the length of the item to accommodate for a different slope. The next thing is going to be the page properties. So this property here, it works kind of like the group and the single items, but this will apply to all the items on the page. So for example, let's say this building had 5 levels and they had 5 decks of the same size. So if I wanted to select this deck here and I wanted to multiply it by 5, this will apply the property to the entire screen. Okay, so the last box here we have the toolbox. This is a premium feature, and the way it works is that this allows you to set up your items that you're going to commonly use, and you can just reuse them. So over here I already set up a couple items. So for example, if I want to use this one for a deck, all I have to do is click on this and it's going to add it to my Takeoff group collection, and I can go back here and start using it again. Let's see here. So this particular toolbox item, you can control it from the main screen. It's over here. So if you click on this button here, on this side here, this allows you to make the groups. So here I have a couple of different categories. And once you actually create a group, you go on this side here and you can add the particular items. And it's quite easy. If you want to modify it, you can just change the name right here, and this will auto-save the feature. Now the other thing is the PDF utilities. This is another new feature that we have. If you click on here, for example, something that a lot of customers do is they might send me a package that comes in a lot of different files. So for example, here I can select multiple PDFs and import them. And I can take these files and I can combine into one file. All you have to do is click here, Export PDF. Or for example, let's say the customer sends you a really big file and you want to separate a couple pages, so you want to just delete some stuff. You can just select the pages that you want and click Export, and this allows you to split the PDF. And the last feature that they can do is they can convert the PDF into images. So once the files are loaded, you just click on this button here to export, and it will save all of your pictures as an image. So a couple of different features you can do. So if you select your project, and you can also go here to change the project name or to add additional information. Alright, so now that we had a little rundown of how the software works, let's try doing some actual takeoffs and see if the tool's in action. So I reset the page, the project again, and so let's start over. We're going to go here and we're going to set the scale. Let's say 24.5 feet. I'm going to use this dimension. I'm going to apply it to all pages. I'm going to click Scale and click OK. So now for the takeoffs, there's a bunch of different stuff we can do, but this really depends on the type of industry that you're working with. So for me, I do a lot of metal work. So for over here, I'll be interested in these guardrails. So I'm going to create a takeoff group called guardrails. And I can go for the building and I can start giving them the dimensions. So I can see there's some on the stair here. There's some inside. Okay, so I got the stuff that I wanted, but let's see what other stuff we can do. So for example, let's say you're working in the window industry. Some relevant things would be like the type of a number of windows that you have. So you might want to do a window and you can give it a number. You can go around and count the windows. Some more relevant items, for example, if you're working in the siding industry, you might want to take the area of the siding that you have. So for this, you can use the area tool right here. And you can just start drawing here. This one here, you might want to give it a name. I will call this one siding. You can adjust the opacity and the color. Okay, so now that is set up, let's take a look at how to get the information out of the project. So up here we have reports. If we click on this window, it will give you a summary of the totals for the project. And we have a couple ways to export it. So the one that I use the most would be this one here, export pages as a PDF. Over here you can select which pages you want to export. Click OK. And this will give you a summary kind of like this. It will show you your footages here summarized on the left, and it will show you the annotations. So what I usually do this ones here is I attach these with a contract for a customer, and then you can have the scope of work already part of your contract. So some other reports, you can export it to Excel as well. This will give you a summary, basically a total of your project. It looks like this. The other one is a detailed report. The detailed report gives you a total for each individual item. It will also give you the information from the notes and the text in the field, so if you need to have more information as part of the quote, you'll have it available in this report here. Well, hopefully this was an informative tutorial. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to shoot us an email. The address is on the website. Thanks.